When you talk about the New York Mets, you're not just talking about a baseball team. You're talking about heartbreak and hope, about miracle moments and crushing collapses, about a fan base that refuses to give up. Born in 1962, the Mets came into a city already owned by legends. The Yankees had built an empire. But in Queens, something different was happening. Something scrappy, something real. The Mets were the underdogs, and their story would become one of baseball's most emotional journeys. From the miracle of '69 to the swagger of '86 to the modern stars who carry the blue and orange with pride, this is their legacy. These are the 20 greatest players in New York Mets history. Number 20, Jeff McNeil. Every era needs a throwback, and Jeff McNeil is exactly that. Nicknamed the Squirrel for his constant energy and fearless hustle, McNeil has become the spark plug of the modern Mets. A player who brings the same intensity to a routine ground ball as he does to a playoff chase. He burst onto the scene in 2018, quickly earning a reputation for doing something that's become a lost art, hitting for average. In 2022, he won the National League batting title and proved that you don't need to hit 40 homers to dominate offensively. His ability to play multiple positions, from second base to the outfield, only adds to his value, making him the kind of player every team dreams of having. McNeil embodies everything old-school baseball fans love: discipline, grit, and heart. He doesn't just play, he competes. Every single pitch. He's a reminder that even in the age of analytics and home runs, precision, hustle, and passion still matter. Number 19, John Stearns. They called him the Bad Dude, and John Stearns lived up to every bit of that nickname. A four-time All-Star catcher in the late 1970s and early 80s, Stearns was the beating heart of the Mets during some of their toughest years. While the team struggled in the standings, Stearns refused to let the spirit of the game die in Queens. Stearns wasn't just a catcher, he was a leader, a fighter, and the kind of player who made you proud to wear the Mets colors. His toughness wasn't an act, it was who he was. In fact, stories of him playing through pain and injuries only added to his legend. Stearns represented the grit and resilience that define New York baseball. He may not have played in the glory years, but to Mets fans who saw him fight every inning, he was their hero. Number 18, David Cone. Before he was a Cy Young winner and World Series legend, David Cone was the young flamethrower who helped define the swagger and energy of the late 80s Mets. Armed with a blazing fastball and a fearless attitude, Cone burst onto the scene as one of baseball's most electrifying pitchers. In 1988, he delivered one of the finest seasons in Mets history, going 23 with a 2.22 ERA, striking out hitters with ease, and showing the kind of dominance that made batters dread facing him. But what truly made Cone special wasn't just the numbers, it was the emotion. He pitched with fire, intensity, and a little bit of edge, fitting perfectly with the rough and ready personality of those 80s Mets teams. Even though Cone would go on to win 5 World Series titles with other teams, his years in New York were unforgettable. He was the ace the city couldn't take their eyes off, the pitcher who made Shea Stadium roar every time he took the ball. Number 17, Mookie Wilson. Few names make Mets fans smile quite like Mookie Wilson, the spark plug, the hustler, and the heart of the 1986 World Series champions. With his blazing speed, infectious smile, and relentless energy, Mookie became the emotional engine of that unforgettable team. He played every inning with joy and urgency. The kind of player who could turn a routine single into an adventure and a crowd into chaos. But it was one moment, one swing, that made him a forever legend. Game 6 of the 1986 World Series, a slow roller down the first baseline. It gets by Buckner. The Mets win. Shea Stadium explodes. That ground ball wasn't just a fluke, it was destiny. It turned despair into euphoria and gave New York one of the most iconic sports moments ever. Beyond that single play, Mookie's hustle, heart, and humility became the standard for what it means to wear the Mets uniform. He was the embodiment of never giving up, even when the odds seemed impossible. Number 16, Brandon Nimmo. Always smiling, always sprinting to first base, even on a walk. Brandon Nimmo is everything Mets fans love in a player. He's not flashy, not loud, but he's relentlessly consistent. The kind of player who does every little thing right. Since his debut, Nimmo has become the heartbeat of the modern Mets, disciplined at the plate, dependable in the field, and driven by pure effort. He's often among the league leaders in on-base percentage, a stat that perfectly defines who he is. A grinder who battles every pitch and never gives away an at-bat. But beyond the numbers, it's his energy and attitude that have made him a fan favorite. In a city that demands hustle and heart, Nimmo delivers both every night. He represents the next generation of Mets leadership, the bridge between the franchise's storied past and its promising future. When Brandon Nimmo smiles, runs, and plays his heart out, he reminds New York exactly what it means to be a Met. Number 15. Howard Johnson. In the late 80s and early 90s, few players captured the excitement of Mets baseball quite like Howard Johnson, or as fans knew him, Hojo. A rare blend of power, speed, and versatility, Johnson was one of the most complete players of his era. He twice joined the elite 30-30 club, smashing 30 home runs and stealing 30 bases in a single season, something almost unheard of at the time. He was a key contributor to the 1986 World Series champion Mets, delivering clutch hits and providing switch-hitting depth in one of the most dangerous lineups in franchise history. Whether blasting a home run into the Shea Stadium stands or swiping a key base late in a game, he gave the Mets a weapon few teams could match. For years, Howard Johnson was the team's quiet superstar, the kind of player who didn't seek the spotlight, he earned it. Number 14, Mike Piazza. When Mike Piazza arrived in New York in 1998, the Mets weren't just looking for a star, they were looking for a savior. And in Piazza, they found exactly that. Already recognized as the greatest hitting catcher in baseball history, Piazza brought instant credibility to Queens. His towering home runs and fiery competitiveness reignited hope in a franchise searching for its next great era. By 2000, he had become the face of the Mets, carrying the team all the way to the Subway Series against the Yankees. His bat, his presence, and his leadership made New York believe again. But Piazza's most unforgettable moment came not in a World Series, but in the heart of tragedy. Just 10 days after 9/11, with the city grieving and broken, Piazza stepped to the plate and hit a game-winning home run that sent Shea Stadium and all of New York into an emotional roar. That moment was bigger than baseball. It was about healing, hope, and unity. Piazza's swing lifted an entire city off its knees. Mike Piazza didn't just represent the Mets, he represented New York itself. Number 13, Al Leiter. A true workhorse and leader on the mound, Al Leiter brought toughness and stability to the Mets' rotation during one of the most competitive stretches in franchise history. Arriving in Queens in 1998, Leiter quickly became the anchor of the pitching staff. Reliable, fiery, and always ready for the biggest stage. He threw the first one-hitter in Mets history, a performance that showcased both his precision and his poise. Known for his intelligence, preparation, and bulldog mentality, Leiter wasn't the loudest voice in the clubhouse, but when he took the mound, everyone followed his lead. He wasn't just a pitcher, he was a fighter, a man who represented everything it meant to wear the orange and blue with pride. Al Leiter didn't just throw innings, he led by example, and his legacy still echoes through Mets history. Number 12, Keith Hernandez. When the Mets traded for Keith Hernandez in 1983, everything changed. He wasn't just a first baseman, he was the captain. The man who brought discipline, leadership, and championship swagger to Queens. At a time when the Mets were struggling for identity, Hernandez walked in and transformed the culture. On the field, his defense was pure artistry. 11 straight gold gloves, the standard for first basemen everywhere. His clutch hitting and keen baseball IQ made him the heartbeat of the 1986 World Series team, guiding a roster full of wild personalities toward one shared goal, winning. But his impact went far beyond stats. Hernandez led by example and expectation. He challenged his teammates to play smarter, harder, and to carry themselves like champions. He taught the Mets how to win, how to handle pressure, and most importantly, how to believe. Keith Hernandez wasn't just part of the Mets' success, he built it. Number 11. Jon Matlack. A cornerstone of the early 1970s Mets, Jon Matlack was one of the finest left-handers ever to take the mound for New York. He burst onto the scene in 1972, winning the National League Rookie of the Year with his smooth delivery and icy composure beyond his years. Over the next several seasons, Matlack became the steady force behind the Mets' rotation, earning 3 All-Star selections and the respect of hitters across the league. In the 1973 postseason, when the Mets shocked the baseball world with their underdog run, Matlack was brilliant, striking out legends, outdueling aces, and proving he could rise to the biggest moments. His precision and poise nearly carried New York to another championship. Quiet, composed, and relentlessly consistent, Matlack wasn't one to seek the spotlight, but ask anyone who watched him pitch. His impact was undeniable. He gave the Mets everything a true ace should: control, confidence, and calm under pressure. Number 10. Jose Reyes. Electric. That's really the only word that fits Jose Reyes. From the moment he debuted in 2003, Reyes transformed the energy at Shea Stadium. He wasn't just fast, he was lightning in cleats. Every time he stepped on the field, something exciting was bound to happen. He led the National League in stolen bases 4 times, hit triples like they were singles, and in 2011 captured the batting title, the first in Mets history. But stats only tell part of the story. Reyes played with pure joy, emotion, and swagger. His smiles were contagious, his celebrations unforgettable, and his style uniquely New York. When he was on base, pitchers lost focus, catchers got nervous, and fans leaned forward, waiting for the chaos he'd create next. He wasn't just a shortstop. He was the heartbeat of an entire generation of Mets fans, the spark that made every game feel alive. Number 9. Sid Fernandez. With his funky delivery and knee-buckling breaking pitches, Sid Fernandez, affectionately known as El Cid, was one of the most quietly dominant pitchers of his era. A 2-time All-Star, Fernandez was a nightmare for hitters, especially at Shea Stadium where he was almost untouchable. His high-riding fastball defied physics, sneaking past bats that thought they were level with it, and his looping curveball froze even the league's best sluggers. During the 1986 World Series, it was his clutch relief outing in Game 7 that helped shift momentum toward the Mets, setting the stage for one of the greatest comebacks in franchise history. El Cid wasn't flashy or loud. He just went out, game after game, and gave the Mets a chance to win. For a team filled with big personalities, Sid Fernandez let his talent do the talking. And for those who watched closely, it spoke volumes. Number 8. Edgardo Alfonzo. Smooth, steady, and always clutch. Edgardo Alfonzo was the kind of player every great team needs. Nicknamed Fonzie, he was the quiet heartbeat of the late 90s Mets. A player who didn't need headlines to prove his worth. Whether turning double plays at second, flashing the glove at third, or delivering line drives in key moments, Alfonzo did it all with calm precision. In 1999, he hit an impressive .324, anchoring one of the best infields in baseball and coming through time and again in the postseason. His performance in the '99 Division Series, including a grand slam in Arizona, remains one of the most clutch moments in Mets history. What made Alfonzo special wasn't just his talent, but his intelligence, consistency, and poise under pressure. He embodied what it means to be a New York Met: hardworking, reliable, and unforgettable. Number 7. Carlos Beltran. Carlos Beltran's Mets legacy may be debated, but his greatness isn't. From 2006 to 2011, Beltran was everything you could want in a superstar: power, speed, defense, and leadership. In that stretch, he blasted over 140 home runs, won 3 Gold Gloves, and became the anchor of a team that felt destined for greatness. In the 2006 NLCS, he was nearly unstoppable. hitting 5 home runs, tying a postseason record, and giving Mets fans unforgettable October nights. Yes, many remember the strikeout that ended Game 7, but that one moment doesn't define him. What truly defines Beltran is the elegance in his swing, the effortless grace in center field, and the quiet confidence that made him one of the most complete players of his generation. He wasn't just one of the best Mets outfielders. He was one of the best players in baseball, period. Number 6, Jerry Koosman. The 1969 Miracle Mets wouldn't have been possible without Jerry Koosman, the unsung hero who sealed the deal. When the Mets needed one final push to complete the unthinkable, it was Koosman on the mound in Game 5 of the World Series, shutting down the Orioles and delivering in the franchise's first championship. Across his Mets career, Koosman won 140 games, earned 2 All-Star selections, and carved out a reputation for being calm under pressure. His wicked slider and pinpoint control made him a nightmare for hitters, and the perfect counterpart to Tom Seaver's power. Koosman wasn't just the number 2 in the rotation. He was the quiet warrior who made sure every victory was earned. For every Seaver masterpiece, there was a Koosman gem, steady, brilliant, and essential to Mets history. Number 5, Jacob deGrom. Few pitchers in baseball history have ever reached the level of dominance that Jacob deGrom displayed at his peak. A 2-time Cy Young Award winner, deGrom wasn't just overpowering, he was surgical. With fastballs touching 100 miles per hour, sliders that disappeared at the plate, and command so precise it seemed unfair, he redefined what pitching excellence looked like in the modern era. From 2018 to 2021, he didn't merely perform, he made history. ERA records, strikeout ratios, and jaw-dropping performances became routine. Even when the Mets offense offered him little support, deGrom remained unshakable, the ultimate professional, carrying the team on his back start after start. In every sense, he was the modern-day Tom Seaver, calm, fearless, and almost untouchable when it mattered most. Jacob deGrom's name doesn't just belong among the Mets greats, it deserves to stand beside the greatest pitchers the game has ever seen. Number 4, Darryl Strawberry. Tall, smooth, and powerful, Darryl Strawberry looked like he was born to play in New York. From the moment he debuted in 1983, fans could feel the electricity. With that effortless swing and towering home runs, Strawberry became the face of the Mets franchise throughout the 1980s. He won Rookie of the Year, made 8 straight All-Star appearances, and helped lead the team to World Series glory in 1986. Every time he stepped to the plate, Shea Stadium buzzed with anticipation, because everyone knew something special could happen. Yes, his career had its ups and downs, but when Darryl Strawberry was locked in, he was unstoppable. He wasn't just a ball player, he was a showman. The perfect star for the city that never sleeps, and one of the most iconic Mets to ever wear the uniform. Number 3, Dwight Gooden. At just 20 years old, Dwight "Doc" Gooden wasn't just the best pitcher in baseball, he was a phenomenon. In 1985, Gooden delivered one of the most dominant seasons the sport has ever seen. A 24-4 record, a 1.53 ERA, and 268 strikeouts. His fastball exploded out of his hand, and his curveball, known as Lord Charles, dropped like it defied physics. Shea Stadium didn't just watch him pitch, it watched him perform magic. Every 5th day felt like an event. Gooden wasn't just a pitcher, he was a supernova, a teenage prodigy who carried the Mets and the dreams of an entire fan base. Though his later years were marked by personal struggles, for those few shining seasons, Dr. K was untouchable. He gave Mets fans something they'll never forget, the thrill of witnessing perfection before it even turned 21. Number 2, David Wright. They called him the Captain, and for good reason. David Wright was more than a superstar. He was the heartbeat of the New York Mets for nearly 15 years. From the moment he debuted in 2004, fans saw something different. A player who combined talent, humility, and pride in a way few ever have. A 7-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, and 2-time Silver Slugger, Wright rewrote the Mets record books, leading the franchise in hits, doubles, RBIs, and total bases. But stats only tell half the story. Through injuries, rebuilds, and heartbreaks, Wright never wavered. He played through pain, carried himself with grace, and always spoke about what it meant to represent New York. When he took his final bow in 2018, Citi Field stood still, not just for the player, but for the man who embodied everything the Mets stood for. He didn't just play for the Mets, he was the Mets. Number 1, Tom Seaver. Every franchise has a cornerstone, a player who defines everything the team stands for. For the New York Mets, that man is Tom Seaver. They called him the franchise because that's exactly what he was. The man who gave the Mets credibility, dominance, and pride when they needed it most. From the Miracle Mets of 1969 to his final pitch in Queens, Seaver embodied excellence in every sense. He wasn't just the ace, he was the standard. He won 3 Cy Young Awards, struck out over 2,500 batters as a Met, and led the team to their first World Series championship in 1969. The year the impossible became reality. When Seaver took the mound, it wasn't just another baseball game. It was a masterclass, a performance where power met precision. Even decades later, his presence still echoes through Citi Field, in every strikeout cheer and every retired number 41 jersey. From Shea Stadium to Citi Field, from Tom Seaver's fastball to David Wright's last wave goodbye, the Mets' story is one of defiance. They were never the biggest, never the richest, but always, they had heart. Every generation had its heroes, the Miracle Mets, the '86 legends, and the modern stars who keep the flame alive. They've given their fans heartbreak and hope in equal measure, but that's what makes Mets fans special, because no matter how many times the game knocks them down, they get back up. The New York Mets aren't just a baseball team. They're proof that miracles still happen in Queens.